18 years. It has been 18 years since the last mainline Metroid Prime title released, and that was Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. The last 8 years have been pretty agonizing since the announcement of Metroid Prime 4, and I think you can all understand where I'm coming from. When there's a new game, one of your favorite franchises, and it takes forever to finally release, you know the pain I'm talking about. Hell, in the last decade, this has happened to me twice. But, with all that said, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is finally here. And is the game everything I hoped it would be? Well,
Yes! Yes!
but also,
No.
you see, it's kind of complicated. You see, in recent memory, there's not many games I've felt more conflicted on than Prime 4 Beyond. A lot of this game is very good and fits what I wanted out of a Metroid Prime sequel, especially a sequel to the original trilogy that I talked about beforehand in my previous video. But some of the things that they add to try to make it more modern just kind of feel... ugh. They don't fit well at all, and they're either half-baked or they're just not executed well at all, especially for a game that has had this long in development time and this troubled development time. I get it. Switching studios midway through development can be hard on any studio, on any project, but some of this just feels like Nintendo was just kind of throwing it out there like it was out of obligation or some sort. We'll get into that more a little bit later, especially when we talk about Soul Valley, but in order to explain why I kind of feel this way in terms of expectations not being met and being somewhat disappointing, let me kind of explain a different situation that happened to me back in 2019. You see, I'm a pretty huge Kingdom Hearts fan. Now, you're probably wondering why I bring this up, and trust me, it is relevant. Kingdom Hearts 2 is my favorite video game of all time. So, when sequels were announced after the fact, when I was 6 years old, I got extremely hyped. However, none of these games were the true number 3. They were all in context and important to the story, of course, but they weren't a main number in the series. They were all considered spin-offs, at least for any other franchise they would be. This would be until 2013, when Kingdom Hearts 3 was finally announced. In this trailer, they even showed some gameplay, and it looked pretty polished, so everyone expected that this game would come out fairly soon after announcement, right? But not necessarily. You see, about a year after this announcement trailer, it was shown that it was going to be delayed because the team was switching from their own proprietary engine to Unreal Engine 4. We did not see any new trailer for Kingdom Hearts 3 until E3 of 2015. This is when we finally got to see new gameplay and new story footage of the game. This is after everything had been translated into the new engine, of course. So, everything's looking great, right? Can't wait to play it next year in 2016, right? It did not come out in 2016. Did not come out in 2017. Did not come out in 2018. It came out in January of 2019. And at the time, I think it would be generous to say that the reception was mixed at best, given the general fan base around the time. And I think there's a reason for this. After years of seeing gameplay and how polished this game was looking, that we've thought that this would be as good as Kingdom Hearts 2. When things weren't exactly how we envisioned it to be, it was considered disappointing. Even though some of the parts of this game are great, and after years of playing it, I think it's my second favorite game in the series. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, the reason I bring this up is because Prime 4 actually had a similar cycle in terms of development and excitement for me. You see, the game was announced back in 2017 as an early Switch title, Later, it was announced that Prime 4 would be delayed indefinitely because the team wasn't exactly happy with what was going on with it, and that Nintendo was switching focus into adding Retro Studios back as the game's main developer. Great! We got somebody who's familiar with the series and bringing in some fresh eyes and some actual veterans of the series to actually bring the game to modern systems. You see, over the years around this time, little glimpses and pieces of Prime 4 would be shown in Nintendo Directs and such, but we would also be finding out that Retro went on a hiring spree. You see, they got key developers who have worked on series such as Halo, Call of Duty, and Battlefield, even Apex Legends and Titanfall, coming to work on this game. So it looked like that this game was going to be really special and have a lot of big talent in the industry, especially the first-person shooter industry, coming to work on Metroid Prime 4. Well, after many years of waiting, the game finally released on December 4th, 2025. Once launch embargo lifted, people were freaking out over the Metacritic score. For some reason, because it's the most important thing, currently the game sits at a 79 Metascore for critics, with 8.6 for user scores. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean it's a bad game. I mean, I don't really think that games should be judged just specifically based on their Metacritic scores, because I'm not a console fanboy peasant like a lot of other people are out there on the internet. No, the problem that I had really was people trying to compare this game to another Metroid game with less than favorable review scores. People were saying that it's over because the game was being compared to Metroid Other M in terms of review score, but have you guys played Other M? If you did, you would know why the user score is less than Metroid Prime 4, but we'll get to that next video. And yes, I know I said I wouldn't do it in my Prime 1 video, but I'm doing it because I need to make a point. But I digress. Do I think that all the backlash based solely on the review scores on Metacritic is justified? Good God, no! Get a fucking life! Play the game yourself if you're gonna judge it, but if you're just gonna judge it by a couple clips that people are posting on IGN or shit like that, then get a fucking life. At least that was my thoughts before playing the game, and now playing the game, I understand some of the criticism, because some of it is pretty valid, unfortunately. As much as I love this series, I will never shill for Nintendo, especially not this year. And to get into that a little bit more, let's talk about some of the little controversies that are going into this game. It made me kind of have a little sour feeling before release. For starters, let's talk about the amiibo figures that were released alongside this game. There are 3 figures that Nintendo decided to release. There's a Samus one in her new Metroid Prime 4 Beyond look suit. There's one with Samus riding the Viola motorbike. And then there's one of the main villain of the game, Sylux, who was teased at the end of Metroid Prime 3. Sounds pretty cool on paper, right? But it's what each of these do that are very egregious and really fucking greedy, and I wish Nintendo did not do this, because it really soured a lot of the hype I had going into this game at launch. Let's talk about the Sylux one first, since it is pretty useless compared to the rest of them. Well, what happens when you scan the Sylux amiibo onto your Switch? Well, you get a special flashback scene that you can view in the gallery in the main menu. But if you reach 100% completion with the logbook scan entries, or watch the fucking thing on YouTube, this thing is absolutely useless. The one that has Samus riding on top of the Viola bike lets you see how far you've traveled while riding it, and if you reach certain distance milestones, it lets you swap out the skin. Great cosmetic features that are tied to amiibos. Now this is nothing new, amiibos have been doing this for years now, ever since they've released. They've been giving like different costumes or whatever, so this is something that I'm not necessarily too pressed about. But the normal Samus one, however, The normal Samus one allows you to change the background music that plays while riding the Viola in the Soul Valley Desert. And once per day, you get a shield that restores Samus's energy and blocks up to 99 incoming damage. Now, why is this one a big deal, you ask? Well, if you don't have this amiibo, this is what riding around the Soul Valley sounds like. That's right, they are blocking a basic features such as music in a big open desert behind $30. Wait. $30 fucking dollars? Okay, so let me get this straight. The Samus and Silex amiibos are both $30 each, but the one with her riding the Viola, ooh, that one's $40. Whoa! That's just absolute insanity. So, Nintendo is now locking basic game features such as getting customization for a key vehicle in the game, and the ability to listen to music in the biggest area of the game, and probably the area you're going to spend the most time in the game, behind $30 fucking dollars. The Silex one I'm not too mad about, because you can always get the secret ending from beating the game at 100%. This has been there since the beginning of Metroid Prime, so that was fine. However, you can also unlock the music in the desert by completing the game with 100% items and 100% scan rate. So why is this tied to the amiibo? Well, greed. That's why. So let's do some math. Given that you're going to buy the game on a Nintendo Switch 2, because that's the version that they've been advertising to you for the last year and a half, roughly, let's do some math to see what you would need to play this game on Nintendo's recommended way. Well, if you don't have a Switch 2, then you're going to need to buy one of those, and those are $449 to $500, depending on if you want the Mario Kart edition. If you don't want Mario Kart, we'll stick with the $449 one for clarity. The game is $70 unless you're getting it at Costco where it's $62.99, or if you're getting it pre-owned for any cheaper, but let's assume that you're paying full price, so $70. Then, if you want to get the full experience that Nintendo wants you to get from this game by buying all 3 amiibos, that's an extra $100 that you have to spend on amiibos. So, our total is sitting at roughly $620 minimum to get a Switch 2, the game, the 3 amiibos that Nintendo so desperately wants you to buy in order to have the full experience on the Metroid game. So, you're spending $620 to play the next Metroid Prime game that Nintendo wants you to play, and most people will want to play, especially after buying Metroid Prime Remastered a couple years ago. What the actual fuck, Nintendo? Now, there is another way to play this game, actually, and that is emulate. Hey. Sorry about that one, guys. Apparently one of Nintendo's lawyers was sitting outside my window, broke through when I started saying the word. I just had to defend myself, you know. Guess I can't actually say that word, but you all know where I was going, don't you? Anyway. The reason I bring this up is because this controversy ends up affecting the experience whether you want it to or not, frankly. The Soul Valley in particular is completely barren in a boring area without any of these features. Having a radio or something like that would greatly increase my enjoyment of this area, for say. And putting these things behind a $30 piece of plastic is absolutely bullshit. But I digress. Let's get in and talk about the actual game itself, because some of the criticism, as I mentioned before, of this game is valid, while some of it, at the same time, is very overblown, and I think that people need to calm down about some aspects. The intro to Prime 4 is very similar to the intro to Prime 3, in my opinion. You're going to go help the Galactic Federation, who has a distress signal because they're being attacked by space pirates. Now, there is slightly more involved than what happens in Prime 3. It's a mainly action-packed opening, very similar to other games in the genre. I will say, though, that these pre-rendered cutscenes look absolutely amazing for the Switch, and I do think the graphics as a whole, for the most part, look pretty great. Again, for a Switch game. We learn these space pirates are kind of controlled by some unknown leader as of now. We don't really know who it is, like I said, but they're looking for something that is on this specific Galactic Federation base. So, of course, we're going to help them because we came to help the Galactic Federation against the space pirates. Before we get into how this game actually feels to play, or even the rest of the intro for that matter, let's talk about the different control schemes you get. You get multiple different control schemes, much like the Prime 1 Remastered version, although now that the Switch 2 added mouse features to the Joy-Cons, you can use the Joy-Cons as a mouse. Now, this sounds amazing in practice because most first-person shooters tout themselves on their super accurate control. Hell, I mainly play on PC now because mouse and keyboard controls are my preferred option of playing first-person shooter games. So, it definitely intrigued me that the Joy-Cons on the Switch 2 version of the system would have a mouse-type feature. Now, there's one problem with the mouse. It fucking sucks. As somebody with big hands, the Joy-Cons on both the Switch 2 and even the Switch 1 were never really... they never fit my hands, really. Now, what they want us to do for the mouse controls, in this sense, is they want us to hold it vertically. This is like holding your phone vertically. It's almost that thin. This is compounded with the fact that they want you to use all buttons on this mouse as well. So they want you to use the bumper, the trigger to shoot and use missiles. They also want you to use the face buttons to perform different actions and switch to visors. It is not practical in any sense. Even with the extra wrist strap that adds a smoother surface, the mouse still constantly tips over for me. As you can see here, I'm switching to it right now, and you're going to see me flip it all over around. It's not going to be super accurate because I'm not having a good grip on this thing as a mouse. I absolutely hated this version. The next version that you can do is you can do pointer controls, similar to what the Prime 1 Remastered offered for its pointer control option. I never used this myself, as the gyro aiming did not really fit with the actual pointer controls that Prime 1, 2, and 3 on the Trilogy version had. The version I normally stuck with was a new version of the twin stick controls, similar to the Call of Duty type controls that Prime 1 had. Here, it's really not that bad because they add a feature that makes it so that you can lock onto enemies and free aim at the same time while you're using this control scheme. It's not like you're locked in like how you were in Prime 1, 2, and 3 on the mouse and keyboard, as I complained beforehand when I was doing those games on an emulator. No, it emulates the motion controls that Prime 3 had, where you can lock on and free aim with the cursor, as you could in Prime 3 and in all the other games in the trilogy, if you were playing on actual hardware. Now, I do think that this is the preferred way to play, only because of how the mouse controls are, because I hate them. But, at the same time, it does feel a little weird doing that. But that's just because this game focuses more on combat than all the other games combined. If you thought that there was a lot of combat in Metroid Prime 3, oh boy, you have not seen Metroid Prime 4. Now, luckily, all the combat actions are actually fun, and there's not an actual crutch combat option that Prime 3 had in Hyper Mode. Here, it's actually more about using your entire arsenal and hitting the weak spots on enemies. So, this actual feature of using the right stick while you are locked onto something in order to hit the correct spot on the enemy actually works wonders in some cases. It also really helps with certain puzzles as well, where you need to lock onto a central point and shoot the three or more objects around it. It helps a lot more. Now, with that being said, I will say that if Nintendo were to release an actual mouse for the Switch 2, or some sort of like different plastic accessory similar to what they did for the Wii Remote back in the Wii days, that made the Wii Remote into different shapes, like a baseball bat, a tennis racket, if they had some way to make that into like an actual mouse-shaped thing, I would use that any day of the week over this control scheme that I mentioned that I use, because the mouse controls are extremely accurate. It's just that the mouse comfort is a pretty big issue with the normal Joy-Con sizing. With that out of the way, continuing the intro gets us to our first boss battle of the game, Abrax. Now this big giant thing actually fused with multiple Metroids, which cause it to transform and be mutated. For those who aren't used to the control scheme, this boss fight can actually be pretty difficult for a first boss in the game. But it does kind of show some of the limitations with boss fights that I'll get into much later. Every single boss fight in this game is in a giant circular arena, and they do slam attacks or have a projectile move. And that is almost every single attack that they have. Every single enemy has a slam attack. It's not like Metroid Prime 1, 2, or 3, where boss battles had different attacks that fit their own playstyle, or sometimes different unique arenas. I do know that a lot of the boss battles in the first 3 games did have big giant circular arenas, but here they all are exactly the same size about, and they all look exactly the same. At least there is some visual variety with such, and even there, the bosses interacted with the arena in different ways. Here, they all do similar things. They have a charge attack, like I mentioned, they have a slam attack, and then a projectile attack. And that's really about it. Also, something real quick that I'm talking about the boss fights is every single boss fight is fused with a Metroid. I got 100% scans in this game. I have absolutely no idea where the concept of fusing Metroids comes from. I don't. I must have missed something when I was playing it. And if I did miss something, please let me know down in the comments below. Defeating Abrax actually shows us the artifact that the Galactic Federation were here to protect, as well as who's leading these space pirate forces. This is Sylux. This is the same guy who was flying the ship at the ending of Metroid Prime 3, the secret ending that I showed off. Now, what is Sylux from? Well, he's a bounty hunter who has a great hate for the Galactic Federation, and well, he's committing the space pirates in order to get his hands on this artifact. What is this artifact? We have no idea. But Sylux knocking the artifact out of its cage activates it, and then something happens to the surrounding area. We wake up teleported into a new planet. This is not at all the same planet that we were on before, and this is not like some alternate reality. This has teleported us to a brand new planet that we have to explore. This is planet Viros, and here we get to learn that, much like all the other games, a lot of our various suit functionalities are offline, and we have to figure it out. It's pretty much a staple of the series at this point. If you didn't like it in the other games, you're not going to like it here. Now I actually get to talk about what's really going on in this game, you see. This game does not have a more hidden story, I guess you could say, like Metroid Prime 1, where it's all through the scan logs. It's pretty out in the open in this case. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of scan logs in this game that you need to know for further context about everything. However, the main basic plot of the game, you do not need that. I do want to say, though, that this game does remind me a lot of Metroid Prime 2 in terms of story. If you recall from my last video when I talked about it, I mentioned that it was a lot more straightforward than Prime 1's plot. Even more so than Prime 2's in some cases, but I digress. But basically, we're here on the planet Viros. We learn that there's a group of people called the Lemorn, a society that fell apart before their great rapture, and we are the savior to help protect the memories and the knowledge of this people to pass on from generations to generations. In a sense, it's very similar to the Luminoth people from Metroid Prime 2, which is where I draw my comparison. We arrive on the planet, we meet this alien species, and we learn what's going on, pretty much, and then we decide to help them. or we are considered their savior. And that's basically what's happening here as well. We are the savior of the Lemorn people, and as prophesized by their ancient texts. So, we're going to continue to go on, help these people, as well as try to find a way off this planet. Because we don't have our ship, we have absolutely nothing that will get us off this planet currently. I should probably talk a little bit about what just happened, in the footage at least. This crystal that is embedded inside of Samus's helmet is the most important ability that you're going to get in the game. It replaces the scan visor with the psychic visor. You can still scan as normal, as you could before, but you can also access psychic abilities and do certain things with this. In this case, we use it to scan a thing to form a bridge that allowed us to cross. It's nothing too crazy right now, but there are some actually cool things that you can do with this. But I'm going to spoil a little bit here. This is the only visor we get in the game. There are no visor upgrades in this game. There's no X-ray visor, there's no thermal visor, there's not a dark visor, and there's not even another visor that ties into the Lemorn people whatso-fucking-ever. This was a huge disappointment for me, as the visor upgrades are a huge part of the arsenal in the Prime games, and I thought they were really fun to make the gameplay unique and such. Now, I won't deny. In the previous games, some of them were very situational at best, but some of them were very useful to find hidden secrets and such. Here, all the secrets are pretty much laid out, and there's only a couple things that tell you that you can't get it currently. A lot of it's because of the purple mist areas. You don't have the psychic ability that you can access in order to go across. And that's another little pet peeve coming up. Every ability that you get in this game is pretty much has the word psychic in front of it. Like the psychic morph ball, or the psychic boost ball, or the fucking psychic grapple beam. I understand where they're coming from, it's just a little pet peeve of mine. Reaching the top of the tower, we meet the final Lemorn priest that was alive, and we hear his final message. We learn that we are the chosen one foretold in their ancient prophecy, much like I mentioned before. We're here to preserve their knowledge and their history, because all of them have passed. In order to accomplish this task, we learn that there's a device called the Master Teleporter above us. We need to find 5 keys in order to activate the Master Teleporter. Wait a minute. Wait. What other Nintendo game have I seen a similar plot point for, where we have to get multiple objects in order to break a seal or repair an item? Huh. Oh, that's right. Fucking Legend of Zelda. Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time in this case. Because guess what? You can't just rip off one Nintendo game. We have to rip off 2 of them. I mean, even though Ocarina of Time is just rip off Link to the Past in terms of that part of the story, but that's just my opinion, and I'm gonna get my head bit off by the Zelda fanatics now. Anyway. The Zelda comparisons are not going to stop there, by the way, not just in terms of story, but in terms of structure of the game as well. If you go back to the Prime 2 section of my previous video, you'll see that I compare the 3 main areas of that game to Zelda dungeons. Well, I'm reusing that analogy again. And not because I'm lazy, but because this game fits that structure to a T more so than Prime 2 ever did. You see, all of the major areas in this game are linked by a single hub. This hub is an absolute barren wasteland. We'll get into that. But all the major areas are linked to it, and each major area we have to traverse all the way through, fight a boss, get a major item, and move on, and then we get one of the Master Teleporter keys. This fits that analogy more so than any of the Prime 2 sections that I mentioned in the previous video. So, now we're in Fury Green, the first major area of the game. From an exploration side of things, this area is a great starter area, I feel like. It allows us to get used to the environment of the planet, scan lots and lots of enemies to fill up our logbook, because that's another great thing that I love that they were able to bring back was the scan visor, and on top of the scan visor being brought back, the logs and descriptions for all this flora and fauna that you're going to find throughout this game are more detailed than ever. So it really gets you even more immersed into this world than any of the other games previously. And that's something that I really like that they didn't skimp over, was the amount of lore and world building that you can find just through scanning items and enemies in this game. Like, for example, we know that we're going to be coming back to this area because something's inside of the statue. Strong impact will destroy it, and there's an item inside of it. Like, just something like that. You wouldn't know to check this thing unless you scanned it. But another good thing that you can do in this game, and I unfortunately did not do it very much throughout my playthrough, is you can leave markers on the map now. If you find an area where an item will be, and you don't have the upgrade for it, you can mark it on your map and come back for it later. So then you can see exactly what was there when you were exploring the first time. That is a great quality of life change, and on top of that, I don't think I'm spoiling this, but they did bring back the system for Metroid Prime 3, where it will show you all the available items in an area once you get to that point in the game. Great quality of life feature, and I'm glad that they brought it back. And I think that they should keep the marking system in future games. If there is any. Please let there be more, please. Exploring around a little bit more gets us the first major psychic upgrade of the game, the Psychic Glove. This allows us to manipulate psychic objects, whether it be psychic motes, platforms, you name it. Anything that has any psychic energy resonance whatsoever, we can then manipulate it through the Psychic Glove in order to solve puzzles. I actually really like this system, and I think it makes it much more creative for a lot of the puzzles in this game. I can't talk, I apologize. But it's not as intrusive as some of the other things in Prime 2 or Prime 3, really. I think it's a nice, fun system that adds a lot more layers to the puzzle solving in this game, rather than just getting a boost ball and boosting for a couple minutes or whatever. Now, we can use our scan visor to learn something, and then manipulate psychic objects around the area in order to fit our needs to get through the area. I think it's really fun and it's super creative. I do wish that we could manipulate things a little bit more than they allow us to, but hey, that's just wishful thinking, you know? After exploring Fury Green, we find... oh, this guy. Miles fucking McKenzie. This guy got people outraged before the game even came out. The previews were talking about how he absolutely ruined the preview section of the game, and that his writing is absolutely atrocious. And while his writing is bad, especially in the beginning when you first meet him, I don't think that it is the biggest deal, really. Let me explain. Look. Now, while he is annoying at the beginning, that's just how his character is. Later on, he gets less annoying. Except for the constant hint messages later on, but that's not the character's writing's fault, that's the game's fault at that point. But I think that the hate for this character and shit, all of the amigo type characters that are in this game is extremely overblown. With one exception. This game actually has escort segments. I guess at this point it must just be a law that every game titled 4 in a series has to have an escort type mission, like Resident Evil 4. But Resident Evil 4 is a great game and it's one of my favorites of all time, you know? I didn't mind the escort segments of that game, and they're actually pretty easy to manage. How are they here? Well, the results could be, mixed, to say the least. You see, in the early parts of the game, it's not too bad, because they don't just stand there and take bullets, and on top of that, the enemies kind of focus on you for the first part of the game. I could see this being a pain in the ass in hard mode at the beginning, but normal mode, it's whatever. It's later in the game that you have to worry about it, especially a certain boss battle that you have 4 of them in. And I'm not spoiling that here. I don't give a shit if I spoil that. There are 4 different amigo characters that you're going to come across in this game. All of them have a health bar, and in certain combat sections, like I said, these escort segments, you actually need to keep them alive. If you don't keep them alive, it's a fucking game over. Very similar to Ashley from Resident Evil 4. Didn't think I would be making that comparison 2 times in a row, but I am. Why is this in Metroid? You can have these characters. You can have these characters fight with you. Fine. Why do we have to manage their health bar and everything else as well? That is something that I don't like. And while I have my complaints about Miles McKenzie and some of the writing with him, it has nothing to do with the fact that the character is even there in the first place. I don't care that the character's here. I really don't. I don't give a fuck about the writing, really, either. Especially because later on, like I said, he's not that annoying, really. He's just there for the first part of the game, really. Mainly, that's just his role, the annoying sidekick character during the first part of the game. But later on, he's really not that bad. I actually think some of the other characters are a little bit worse. But we'll get to them when we get to them. It's mainly the bridge segment where you first get to see this escort type mentality what we're talking about before. If an enemy gets behind you, they will then focus their attack on Mackenzie himself. They won't focus on you, they'll go for Mackenzie. Now, these enemies are pretty easy to take care of. It's not super hard to kill them before they can kill Miles. But, later on, when you have enemies that can take a full energy tank away from you in one fucking hit, it can get a little aggravating. It can get a little bit hard to handle, especially when you have multiple of these fuckers you have to deal with, like I said before. And this should not be in Metroid, especially because of how useless their attacks are. I don't want to deal with this in a Metroid game. Or any video game, really, but especially not a Metroid game. You know, the game where you're supposed to be exploring and finding new things, and scanning things to find out the lore or what these things are. These are just total pace breakers for me. These sections where you have to sit with an amigo character and protect them. They are extremely pace breaking, like I just mentioned, and I hate them. But there's not a lot of them in the game, like I forgot to mention before. And like I said, it's only really annoying at the end of the game. This first section, yeah, it goes on a little bit too long. It does. But trust me, they get worse as the game goes on. And you're gonna pray that they were this short coming up. But really, there's not too much more to talk about in Fury Green. We get an upgrade called the Control Beam, which, while we're in the Psychic Visor, we can fire a charged shot that lets us control it in any direction. It's very similar to remote control batarangs. If you ever played any of the Batman Arkham games, it's literally the exact same thing. And I think it's another cool feature that allows us to hit specific weak points on enemies. Helps us slow down time, so if we can't hit the shot or destroy things all at the same time, we pull out the Control Beam, and then we can use that, or we can activate a switch from afar with the thing as well. This helps with a lot of puzzles, and it will help with the next major boss fight coming up. But really, there's not much else to do besides that boss fight. Wait, I forgot. We learned from the last Lamorne Priest that this is the Temple of Memory, and we can return these green crystals to learn more about what sacred Lamorne Priest offered prayers. It's basically like more lore tabs, pretty much. And it helps us regain some of the lost powers. This is required for the game. This is also the equivalent of the Chozo artifact hunt from Prime 1, the Sky Temple key from Prime 2, and the energy cells from Prime 3. You get the idea, it's the same type of fetch quest. But we're getting it from the very beginning of the game. Can we collect any of this shit right now? Of course fucking not. There's one area in this Fury Green section where we can collect some, but these are all of this is going to be within the Soul Valley, and We'll probably get there in 30 minutes because I can't shut up and we're not even at the second area of the game yet. We're not even done with Fury Green yet, but when we get to Salt Valley, I will have a lot to say. And then we'll probably speed everything up afterwards. So let me shut up about this stuff and let's actually get somewhere story-wise. So, after this, we actually get to a next major boss of the game. This is Carvix. Carvix is a giant plant monster, very similar to Flagra from Metroid Prime 1. I know I'm comparing a lot of things from Prime 1, 2, and 3, but that's because it's basically a legacy sequel to a game that came out 20 years ago almost, whatever. But this is also similar to Flagra in the sense that it has giant tentacles that will swing at you. In order to destroy the tentacles, all have to be destroyed within a small time frame. So we can destroy one, but later on, once multiple tentacles spawn, we'll have to destroy them all at the same time. So we destroy the shielding, then we can use the control beam to destroy all of them in one shot, allowing us to damage the boss's core. Every single boss in this game is fused with the Metroid, much like previously mentioned with the Abarax fight. But here, it also shows that Sylux and his minions are around here doing the same thing to this planet's inhabitants as well. We won't be hearing from any of them for a very, very, very long time, but trust me, Sylux is behind the Metroid fusing with these enemies, or the Metroid fusion of these enemies. I'm here all night, folks. I'm not going away anytime soon. This is a very simple boss fight in the grand scheme of things, but it's not trying to be the most complex thing. It's trying to get you used to the control beam and the psychic powers that it has in terms of puzzles and in combat. This is mainly the combat focus of the control beam. So it really helps us get used to it because we're going to be using this in combat quite a bit, especially with enemies with specific weak points, similar to how this enemy has it. So I do actually like this boss fight for it, and it is technically another tutorial boss fight. So a lot of the bosses in this game are also tutorial boss fights in terms of learning a new item or learning a new mechanic, I guess you could say. And that's not a bad thing, considering the game is throwing lots and lots of new mechanics at you all the time. You kind of want to get used to how it works and not just kind of thrown into a boss fight and be like, oh, screw you, you can't figure it out in 2 seconds, here you go. So I do like how the game gives you some time for it, but yet again, this boss is also in a giant circular arena where the boss is in the center, has slam attacks, in this case thorns, and it has projectile attacks, in this case too, yada yada. It's very, very repetitive, and I do wish that when they make Prime 5, again, please make Metroid Prime 5, they kind of give more variety to some of the boss fights, but I digress. This boss fight is now over, and we receive the psychic bombs for all of our troubles. Now, one thing that this game kind of does worse than the other games is that this game kind of just gives you whatever the fuck it wants in terms of power-ups from defeating a boss, I feel like. Some of it just doesn't make much sense, really. Like, why did we get bombs from this fight? Like, what did this fight use that would have given us bombs? See, in the other games, the upgrades kit made sense. Like, we defeat the Omega Pirate, we get the Phazon suit, because the Omega Pirate is irradiating with Phazon, and it's immune to Phazon, so killing it, we get the Phazon suit, so therefore, we're immune to it. Or Quadraxis uses the Annihilator Beam, and therefore we get its most powerful weapon when we kill it. Sometimes in this game, it just doesn't make sense what you get. I wish there was a little bit more cohesion with that, though, too. But, I mean, like I said, it's very, very nitpicky point. It does overall detract from some of the immersion, though, I feel like, because you're not killing or besting an enemy that use that item or, fuck, even the weapon against you. You're just getting an item to get an item from a boss. It's slightly disappointing. We get our first Master Teleporter key from this, and then we learn how to use the psychic bombs. One of the aspects of the psychic bombs that we can use is if we hold down the bomb button when we're in Morph Ball, the bomb will actually float upwards. This will allow us to grab it with our psychic glove and throw it into one of the psychic locations. This is a super cool feature that I wish got used more, because it's not used as much as I feel like it should. It's only used probably like 8 or 9 times in the game, but it's super cool item in puzzle solving. Taking this escape pod-like thing takes us to the next area that we need to reach, the Volt Forge. We also get a glimpse of what some of those green crystals are going to look like out in Soul Valley. And on top of that, we get to learn that the Lemorn were working on a transportation device called the Viola. This is basically the giant motorbike that we saw in all the trailers, and it has a lot of lore behind it. We learned that the Lemorn actually constructed a giant factory to make all of these and its automatons in order to protect the planet and traverse it very quickly. This giant factory that I mentioned earlier is the Volt Forge, our next area. Now, Volt Forge is probably my favorite area in the game. It has this absolutely badass soundtrack that you're hearing behind it. In fact, there's a variation on it that I think is the best music track in the game, but this area basically serves as us building the Viola bike, pretty much. We're going from area to area to restart all the 3 generators on the 3 towers to basically build us our bike, and then we have to go through the testing phases of it. So, this is a very different area progression-wise from all the other ones. This is probably the second longest area that you're going to go through, because what you're going to do is you're going to go from tower to tower, go all the way down to the bottom, activate the generator, and then come all the way back up. There is absolutely no fast travel teleporter system to get you back to the top of the tower, at least yet. And this area is an extremely cool area. I think it has the best visual, distinctive look of the entire game, on top of, like I said, the soundtrack, which is absolutely amazing. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but first, in order to get on the Viola bike, we need to get the Viola suit. This is that suit that we see in the trailers as well, because our current suit is not compatible with the bike itself. The bike also allows us to travel from tower to tower, so we know in this first tower that we're going to gain access to it, at least after turning on the generator. Because the suit upgrade system is not online, because the generator is offline. So we're going to descend downwards to turn the generator back on. When turning every generator on, we reach the same point on all of them, where we have to use the bomb slot to make something move that opens up a Morph Ball slot. We follow the Morph Ball's track all the way down and activate something with the bombs, and then on our way back, we have to dodge the electric energy that is produced by the generator on our way back, because it will damage us significantly. These areas contain my favorite music track in the entire game. Take a listen. Damn, that's a good track. And that's not to say that the rest of the music's awful. I do find quite a bit of it to be uninspired and generic, but that's my own personal taste, and I will let you know what tracks I don't think are worth your time, but please listen to the Volt Forge, and that soundtrack is absolutely great. I didn't mention the Fury Green soundtrack either in the past area, but that soundtrack is also very good too. Listen to that one too if you're not going to play the game, but I digress once again. So now we're going to continue all the way up to the main entrance of this tower to proceed to Tower 2. Like I mentioned earlier, in order to get to Tower 2, we need to use the Viola bike. So we get the Viola suit, which I actually really like the design of, by the way. I like it a lot. And considering that we see this one about the same length of the game that we saw the dark suit in Metroid Prime 2, the fact that I like this suit goes a very long way compared to the dark suit in Metroid Prime 2. Because, fuck me, that suit was ugly. God damn. So let's get to Tower 2 and start up its generator. Tower 2 is basically a giant combat trail. There are many floors we had to fight these Vuros robots that are created by the Lemur. They're all corrupted. If you get hit by their laser attacks, it does a ton of damage, as you can see there, so be very careful. Another cool thing that I didn't realize until later on in the game is that their eyes do double damage. I found this out way too late, and on top of that, you can kind of see me using the control beam, but like I mentioned before with the control settings in the earlier part of the video, you can use the control stick to manipulate your aim while you're locked onto an enemy. After returning the generator's power on, we come face to face with Sylux for the first time in the game. Finally, we get to see what this asshole is up to and why he's trying to stop us. But this boss is a little too easy, if you catch my drift. Like, I feel like he wouldn't be going that easy on us, considering that lore-wise, Sylux absolutely hates the Galactic Federation, and Samus on top of that, because this is Samus's biggest rival in terms of bounty hunters. Sylux absolutely cannot stand her and hates her guts, just like the Galactic Federation. And it's mainly because she works with the Galactic Federation so much that he hates her as much as he does. I'll get a little bit more into Sylux and his backstory, because there is something very interesting that this game does at the end that I think is super fun. But this actually isn't Sylux. No, it's actually one of the Lemurn automatons taking on his form and his powers. Killing him rewards us with an energy tank. That's very, very nice, actually. Especially this early into the game. Proceeding back up Tower 2 and heading to Tower 3, we get to basically the Viola testing grounds. That's what this tower really is. So, proceeding in with the Viola, we go through all the testing phases that the Lemurn use to test each individual Viola unit. So, we do a speed test, a combat test, and then a little combination of the two. This lets us see the capabilities of the bike that we're going to be on for so much of this game. You have absolutely no idea. But at least some of the combat options are fun, and it's pretty fun to control. I mean, like, it's no Mario Kart, like, you can't drift or anything on it, but it's pretty fun. I do wish that this lap that they're having us do was a little more interesting. It's pretty much just straight line with turns. There's no obstacles. And I get that they want us to kind of go through and there will be obstacles later on in each little phase of this, but it's just a little boring, at least for the first one. The second floor of the testing grounds basically shows us that we have a projectile attack to help flying enemies, and we also have a dash attack, where we boost and hold this boost button after boosting to do a big slide attack, sweeping slide attack that will damage all ground enemies pretty much. It's pretty useful. I will say I do use the projectile attack a little bit more, considering that you can lock on to up to 5 enemies at once, and it does a ton of damage, especially to weaker enemies out in the Soul Valley, where you're going to mainly be using the combat here. But I do like the slide attack. It is very cool, and it is an amazing animation as well. Reaching the bottom of this tower gets us to the next major boss fight, Zelios. This is an artificial intelligence computer created to administer Volt Forge's vehicle manufacturing operation, and it's gone haywire, no doubt to the Metroid Fusion inside of it. This boss kind of has a more fun mechanic than the previous two bosses that we fought. You see, there's all these metal plates surrounding the boss's core, which we can damage. We need to destroy these plates. How do we do that? Well, they're lit up. And floating over the boss, we can shoot them and destroy them, exposing the core. He moves these plates and shielding all around his core, so you have to maneuver yourself or destroy more of them in order to get to his core and deal big damage on him. I actually really like this boss, and I think it's much more involved than the previous two. It does, however, fall into the same short-sightedness that the other bosses had, where he has a projectile attack, he has a slam attack, And then he has a thing where you can't hit him. And then he has a ground shake attack. It's just... Okay, we get it. Like, all the bosses are going to be the same. Which is why I'm not going to talk much about this one, because you're pretty much doing the same thing for the entire boss fight. Defeating Zelios grants us the Psychic Boots. It allows us to do the space jump that we could do in Prime 1, 2, and 3, and allows us to step on psychic platforms. We saw some of these in the Fury Green when we uncovered them, the purple platforms that you can see that I uncovered in one specific area, but we couldn't step on them because we didn't have the Psychic Boots. Now we can step on them, and it allows us to traverse areas much easier, and places that we couldn't get before. But wow, look at that! Hooray! We finally got our second Master Teleporter key. This game is going by fast. Like, the other areas are going to be just as fast, right? And then we get to go explore. This is going to be a mile-a-minute adventure. It's going to be great, right? Oh boy. Here we go. Returning out of this area leads us to the Soul Valley, which we can now traverse because we have the Viola in hand. Now, once we leave this area, Miles hops on the radio and tells us this.
You found a teleporter key. Congratulations. Looks like there's 3 keys left. Up to you to decide which one to go after first.
Well, that sounds actually kind of cool. We're doing a non-linear progression in a Metroid game similar to what Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom did with their dungeons. That's actually pretty cool. So let's go explore this area a little bit, and then I'll kind of go decide which one I want to do first. That's not at all how this works. You see, if you wait around too long, Miles will hop back on the radio and ask if you've checked out the volcano, which is on the east side of the map. Now, this completely contradicts that line where we can tackle them in any order we choose. I know he didn't specifically say any order, but the way that that line is delivered makes it sound like, oh, we can go wherever the fuck we want and do whichever one we want to do next. You can't do that. For example, because I'm in the northwest section exploring, I decide to go to the northwest area where there's a teleporter key unlocked. This is actually the ice area. So I decide I'm going to tackle this ice area first because I'm already here, right? And since that line basically confirmed that we can kind of do this in any order that we choose, let's go here first because I'm already here and I don't want to drive all the way across the map to get to the next area. We know one of these areas is blocked off by an upgrade that we can't access yet, the Spider Ball, so right now we're only limited to 2 options, either the volcano or the Snowy Mountain. So, we're going to the Snowy Mountain first, since I'm already on this area of the map. So we start exploring the ice belt, killing super hard enemies to kill because we don't have super high equipment, and then... Wait. What's that? Passage blocked by large formation ice. The ice is thickening over time. Requires extra heat to break. What? So we can't go here yet. This is where the backtracking starts. Oh boy, the backtracking. I know I made a huge deal about backtracking in Prime 1, 2, and 3. Prime 1 I said it wasn't that bad because you kind of already went there, and it wasn't bad because I played it several times before. Prime 2, I said it was a little bit worse, and Prime 3, I said it was the worst of all these games. That has now been dethroned by Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4 has the worst backtracking out of any Metroid game I have ever fucking played. Why? Well, I'll tell you. Let's get into it. So because we need something fire, we decide to drive all the way across the desert back to the volcano on the east side of the map. Fine. I didn't know that we couldn't go this way, so that's on me. We'll drive to the volcano. Even though Mackenzie did mention the volcano earlier, I want to go here myself now because, well, we need something fire in order to break that ice area over there, right? Well, let's explore the volcano just a little bit more. We come to a giant bridge that is covered with lava underneath. The bridge breaks while we're on it. We cannot proceed through the lava because we don't have an upgrade for the Viola to go across lava currently. Okay, well, what do we do then? We have to go back then, right? Sure. Okay, so let's go back. See, in a room back towards the entrance of the volcano, we find this area that we can traverse through and solve a little puzzle, and there's this red, glowy chip in there. This is a Lamorne circuitry for a plasma torch. Oh, this is exactly what we need to get through to the ice area, right? Yes. Now here's the problem. Only a Galactic Federation engineer level 4 or higher can modify this chip and integrate it with your suit. Who can do that? Well, Miles can, right? But he's all the way back at Fury Green, right? Like, surely we're not gonna have to do this every time we get a new beam upgrade, right? Right? Oh. Okay. So, now, this is, get this shit, right? So, now that we have the fire chip, we have to leave the volcano, and mind you, I cut it out, but there's an area, or a cutscene, that shows that there's lava blocking the entrance to the, volcano now, so we need an ice beam in order to destroy it now. So, oh great, something else we're gonna have to fucking do on our way back. So, now we leave the volcano, drive all the way across the giant Soul Valley map where there's nothing there besides driving into green crystals and a couple of shrines that you can't even access at this point. Do that to get back to Fury Green. Just for Miles to automatically give us the fire shot. Now, I wasn't expecting anything crazy in terms of getting the beam. I knew we just needed to come here. But are you fucking kidding me? We're gonna have to do this every time? And oh no! They consume ammo again. God damn it. That's also something I really wanted to worry about in this game. You all know my thoughts from the fucking Prime 2 ammo consumption thing from that video. I'm not gonna go into it again here, but just know, I thought it was a bad thing. I did, however, end up changing my tune a little bit to the beam ammo in this game, considering that the beam ammo is basically the replacement of missiles. You have the psychic beam, yes, but if you want to use any of your other beam upgrades, it replaces your missiles. So, when I figured that out, I was like, oh, fine. That makes sense why there's ammo for the beam upgrades in this game, because they replace your missiles. That makes sense. We don't want to just give everybody an unlimited beam use if it's going to replace the one other thing that you're going to be using, which is missiles. That's fine. I'm okay with that. And on top of that, another good thing about the beam ammo compared to Prime 2 is that they don't have separate ammo pools like the light and dark beam did in Metroid Prime 2. They all share the same amount of collective ammo. Now, this can be a good and bad thing, but personally, I think it's all positive. Because if I want to use the ice beam, or whatever beam would be the equivalent of the Annihilator beam in this game, I don't have to make sure I have ammo in every single fucking beam type. I can just use the one ammo pool for all the beams and go from there. If I want to switch to the electric shot or the lightning shot, go for it. Want to switch to the ice shot? I can do that. And if I want to switch to the fire shot, I can do that all in the same ammo pool. I'm okay for that. I'm totally okay with that. Because there's a ton of ammo upgrades in this game, and I think at the end of the game, you end up having over 500 shots total, which is more than enough than what you're going to need. It's not just the 150 or 250 per beam that you got in Metroid Prime 2. So, that's fine. But now that we got the fire shot, we can actually go explore the Ice Valley now. Cool. Okay, let's leave this area and we'll go drive across the desert again, collecting more crystals. Yay. I know I mentioned this in the intro of the video, but the music you're listening to in the background, this is the music for the Soul Valley. Just this ambient music. That's it. You don't get any more unless you spend $30 on Amiibo. And I know I mentioned that in the intro, but I'm mentioning it again here because it's after almost an hour after I mentioned that. But fucking Christ almighty. You couldn't think of anything else. Like, I would understand it starts off like this because we haven't collected all the teleporter keys, or at this point we haven't even filled up a fourth of the green crystal quota that we need to fill up. If the music changed, similar to how Hyrule Field would do, or some other games that I can't think of right now, where the music would change depending on your progress in the game or collectible-wise, that would have been so much better than what we have here. And that is really my complaint of the Soul Valley. You have to traverse it every fucking time you want to go somewhere. And there is absolutely nothing in it. There's a couple boost upgrades. You're going to have to drive around to get upgrades for that mech later on in the game. Oh, and if you want some of the upgrades, you have to go meet one of the other, like, Amigo characters around the map 5 times in order to get all the upgrades, right? Oh, there's shrines. There's, like, similar things to shrines from Breath of the Wild, but we can't do all those till we have all the beams. Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, okay. So what do we do now? At this point, you're railroaded into going back to Ice Cavern, or the ice area. I don't remember what it's fucking called. The area names are so generic and not really memorable. Like, unlike Volt Forge or Fury Green, those are like and unfortunately, Soul Valley is also pretty memorable, but the ice and fire areas, fuck if I know. I couldn't remember them. I couldn't tell you what the name of them off my head because they're just so forgettable. I know one of them's called the Mines. I don't know what it's actually called, though, but they're the Mines. Probably the Mines of fucking Moria at this point. But, goddamn. Let's get back into this actual backtracking stuff. So after going back to the ice belt and clearing off the thing, we get this big open ice area where we're attacked by all these wolf-like creatures. This is basically just kind of like a survival area. I don't know if you need to kill a certain amount of things or get to a certain point where your energy gets low. I'm not entirely sure, actually, because I've only did one playthrough of this. But after a while of trying to survive, we reach a cutscene where a sniper helps us from the facility across the ice cavern. Tokabi is a little bit more interesting than Miles, but he is still talkative. That's why you'll learn about all the Amigo characters, and that's why I don't have a main complaint with Miles specifically, is because all of them are talkative. But they're less talkative and more mission-focused in this sense. One problem I have with this area is that our objective in this area is doing the exact same thing as Volt Forge. We have to get to the bottom of the area to turn on the generator to power the area. Wow, that's great. Great level design, whoa. In terms of structure and theory, we have to do this in order to basically, like, uncover the rest of the map, and it is a little bit more interesting in some cases. Much like this. Throughout this area, we find data logs from Lemorne Priest, and we find these labs with the Griever enemies that we've been fighting. These are the big enemies that look like dogs, kind of. Not the wolf dogs that we've been fighting in this area, but mainly like dog enemies that we can find in Fury Green and sometimes out in the wild. What makes this interesting is we learn much more about the Lemorne as a species from this. You see, the species of the Lemorne uses the green crystals as energy. They call it GE, green energy. But using this causes the great tragedy, as prophesied by the Lemorne, and why there's none around today. The overuse on this energy is what actually killed them. Because they injected green energy into themselves to make their intellects higher and long-lasting life and give them the psychic abilities, this is ultimately their downturn. This turned them into the Grievers. This was quite shocking for me when I first learned this, and I thought this was a great reveal. because you know absolutely nothing about what these Griever enemies are, and then you finally learn that you're killing Lemorn that are infected by green energy throughout this game. Holy shit. That was an amazing reveal. And that's one thing that I like about this story more than the other games, is that we see the effects of this civilization of people that we're here to help more than any of the other ones. To be fair, though, the other games weren't necessarily about helping this civilization on the brink of extinction, except for the Luminoth, really. That was about it. But even then, like, we did see... There was a reason why we didn't see the main effects of it. But here, this was extremely chilling, especially because the atmosphere at this point made this area like a horror game. You see all these Grievers frozen around the area, and you don't know if they're gonna jump out and get you, but eventually they do, once the power is turned back on. And it got a pretty decent scare out of me, actually, and I really like this area because of that. I know I said Volt Forge is my favorite area aesthetically, but in terms of story, Icebelt is the best, frankly. It's really, really interesting. It's where we learn a lot of what wrong with the Lemorn. And it also brings up some moral questions like, Jesus, do I want to help these people anymore? The experiments they're running on their own kind, trying to figure out this mutation that's going on with them, are kind of grotesque, and they're also very, very wrong, you know? Like, ugh. Gives you chills down your spine, especially if you're reading everything, which you should, because it is extremely interesting. And like I said before, I'm not going to knock the game points in that regard. In that regard, I think it's one of the best in the series, which is why it's so disappointing that this is in a game where a lot of it just doesn't end up the way you would want it to. It ends up falling kind of flat, frankly. And we'll get to that. And it is very disappointing when I'll get to that, but I have to mention it now because the title of this video is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Disappointing, not Beyond Amazing. You know what I mean? It's not that. Because there are disappointing parts in this game, and we will get to that. But when there is something good that this game does, it does it really well, and it does it among the best of the series in the past. It's going to be one of those mixed bag situations, especially in this. But I do think that the lore in this game with the people, the Lemorn, is very, very interesting. So I can't blame Retro with that, and if they do ever make Prime 5, please continue the writing of the lore exactly the way you guys did it here, because it is great. After turning on the main boiler, we actually get to see the final log of this priest conducting these experiments, and it is absolutely chilling, like I mentioned before. You see a Lemorn that is on the brink of death from the green energy mutating him inside. We get to see firsthand that they're trying to find a cure to this disease, and they can't, and they know that it's going to be their people's undoing since everybody has this injected into them. And it's really sad to see, because you know that these people are super intelligent and everything, but they can't cure themselves. It's really like the Fallen from Destiny, where the Fallen are very much enticed by the light that the Traveler gives you, and then when it leaves, they want to follow it and try to cleanse themselves from the darkness that uptakes their home afterwards. That is a very bastardization of the Destiny lore that I'm comparing this to, which honestly I think this is more this is more interesting than that, personally. But it is a little bit of a similarity that I found, and I can't go through a Metroid Prime video without comparing something to Destiny, because that's just who I am. The next boss we fight is Keratos. This is a giant organism that's covered in a hard shell that we need to basically damage, use the grapple beam on, and then we can damage its mouth, pretty much. It's... This is probably the weakest boss in the game, in my opinion, because it has a giant bullet hell projectile attack, it charges at you, and it does a slam attack. Whatever. We get the point at this. We get it at this point. All the bosses are basically the fucking same. I will say, however, that we do get an item that actually kind of fits this boss. Because this boss charges at us, and it kind of charges its charge, if you get what I'm saying, we get the boost ball. So this upgrade actually makes sense coming from this boss. So we get the boost ball, we learn how to use the boost ball in a mechanism similar to the ones on Elysia from Metroid Prime 3, where you go in a circle with the boost ball. Very fun, just like in Prime 3. And it wouldn't be a Prime game without the boost ball anyway. But we finally get our third Master Teleporter key. There's only 2 more left. So on your way out of Icebelt, don't forget to get this thing with the grapple beam, which is basically the ice chip. So then we're going to go back to Miles and give him the ice chip, and then we get the ice shot. I didn't mention this with the fire shot, but goddamn, those names suck. Ice shot, fire shot, thunder shot, I think it's called, the lightning one. Just call it the plasma beam, ice beam, and wave beam. Please. Like, the shot just sounds so lame compared to wave beam or the plasma beam. Like, it sounds so much cooler. But anyway, we'll go from there. In terms of progression, now that we got the ice chip, we go back to Miles, get the ice shot, and then we come back out into the desert, and we're supposed to backtrack back to the Volt Forge, because there's one specific area, I believe it's in Tower 3, where we can go into Tower 3, use the boost ball, and give us a suit upgrade that allows the Viola to go over lava, which is something that we're going to need in the volcano area. If you did not know this was there, and you did not remember that scan location like I did, you will be driving around the Soul Valley until Miles gives you a hint. Now, mind you, if you know where to go, it's fine. If you don't know where to go, or you don't care because you're trying to do all the side shit, you will get radio calls from Miles every 5 or so minutes, and then eventually they just straight up fucking tell you where to go. I get it. We can turn hints off. We can. You can turn hints off and he probably won't tell you this. But on a first playthrough, you're probably going to want hints. Just saying. And it gets a little bit annoying. But now back to the obnoxious fucking backtracking of Metroid Prime 4. So let's go back to Volt Forge and get the single mandatory upgrade. God, I hate the backtracking system in this game. And then we can go back to the volcano. Now we can traverse the lava pool underneath the bridge that broke, and then we can go across and actually get to the facility, which we're here to do, pretty much. This area is the flare pool, and it's honestly my second least favorite area of the game. It's a lava level. Nah, whatever. We do need 2 more Amigo characters, and then we get all 4 of them. The first of which is Ezra Duke, and then later on we will find his partner, Armstrong, who is basically a Samus Aran fangirl. But, okay, cool. That's basically her only redeeming quality as a character, because other than that, she has none. So, let's go from there. Our task here is basically to release 2 clamps, so we take the tram to the different towers of the area, release the clamps, so then that way we can get to the center and kill the boss. Nothing crazy. This area probably is the most boring in terms of all of the areas, because nothing really happens. Nothing fun, really. That's just go from area to area, kill enemies, and then you release clamps again, basically turning on more generators to get to the boss. God damn it, man. This area fucking sucks. The boss is kind of cool at first, though. We get to scan him and we get to start it off on the bike for a little bit. That's kind of cool. But I mean, that it pretty much becomes the fish boss from Metroid Other M, which we'll talk about that next time, like I mentioned before. But anyway, Meteoros is the boss of this area, and he is a much better boss fight than whatever the fuck the one in the ice area was that I can't remember. Even though I have it right in front of me, I'm not gonna look, because I just don't care. And I know I said that all the arenas were the same, but this one actually is slightly different. It's not a big giant circle. it's a semicircle. And you can't even go into the middle of the arena, which, I mean, fine, fair enough. Like, it's different enough. And that's partially why I like this boss more than the others. But so this boss basically consists of destroying the little Mechley Hatzlings on its cheek, and then it'll open his mouth and you can shoot him in the tongue. They also try to bite you, and then you have to do a quick time event to break 3, as we're seeing here. And the animations are great. I never really mentioned this throughout the entire video so far, but the animations and the graphics are amazing, especially for Switch. Animation specifically, though, like, great animations, and it really helps add some immersion into the monotony of the second half of this game. Killing Fenris, we get the grapple beam. Okay. I mean, sure, fine. I guess it fits the boss. There is one cool thing that you can do with the grapple beam in this game that you can't do in the other game. You can basically copy Link from Twilight Princess and double hook shot your way up like you can in that game, and I think it's pretty cool. It's a cool, nice evolution of what the grapple beam was in the previous games, and I wish that something like this was in the previous games too. So, and now we get our 4th Master Teleporter key. There's one more left, guys. This video's almost half as long as my Prime 1, 2, 3 video. Fuck my life. Wait, what's that? Oh, we have to backtrack to Volt Forge again, you say? Oh, and then we have to backtrack back to the Ice Belt to get another upgrade? God damn it. How does this keep getting worse as the game goes on? I don't fucking get it. So what you have to do here now is you have to go all the way back to Volt Forge and explore an area that you couldn't previously access because now you have the grapple beam, and then you go fight another Silex fight, and this fight is actually way harder than the last one. I almost died. And what a fucking surprise, it turns out not to be Silex. So then we go back to Fury Green, and we get the fucking Thunder Beam. Finally, now we have all the beam upgrades, and we can go to all the shrines out in the middle and get all the beam combos and the upgrades and whatnot. But then, after we get the Thunder Shot, we have to go all the way back to the ice area. We meet one more thing, though, the last amigo. I totally forgot about him because you meet him so late. You meet this robot guy who can basically pilot the mech that you're gonna get later on. So, we come back to Ice Belt, we get the fucking Spider Ball, then we leave this area, and then finally we can access the final area of the game to get the last Master Teleporter key, which is the Great Mine. God damn. It's just needless padding at this point. And at the same time, you're fighting the same Griever enemies over and over again. And I don't have it in my soundtrack, but there's this weird, like, screeching music track that they put over the normal music track in whatever area you're in whenever you fight the Griever. And it's so annoying, especially in the Great fucking Mine. Start baiting off that these characters are going to end up dying, probably. So each character has their sacrifice your life moment for Samus so that she can continue on moment. First it's with Takabi, then with Ezra, then with Armstrong, and then finally with the fucking robot that I can't remember his name. All these happen as you traverse the area, by the way, so it's going to be happening all the time. And at this point, you thought there were less puzzles to do in the Volcano area? You haven't seen shit in this area. You're killing almost everything in every single room. And now, at this point, you have multiple combat sections with multiple characters that you have to follow up on. And you have to heal if they go down. And it's just, what the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? Who thought that this was a good idea? So we go deeper and deeper in the mine, and then we find these enemies, which are actually pretty unique, because you have to charge shot the little balls back at them in order to kill them, because that's the only thing that can kill them, and I'm not doing that in the footage, but you can charge shot them and kill them super easily. Super cool enemies. I skipped over a lot of this area, but it's just very boring. You go literally and you fight enemies, and then one of your comrades acts like they're gonna get killed, but Whatever. And then you get to the Omega Griever fight, which you shoot his arms in order to damage him, and then his core opens up, and you do it. He has a slam attack, and he has projectiles, and fucking Christ, can we do something different with the bosses here? I mean, at least here you actually have to bomb him to get his weak spot open, but come on, man. One thing I didn't mention is that you do get the super missiles in this area, and much like Prime 2 and Prime 3, they don't lock onto enemies, so I barely use it. Especially when the fully charged electric shot beam combo does the most damage in the game, so why would I use super missile? Whatever. I don't care anymore. And this is how I felt playing the game. This isn't just me after the fact talking about the game at this point. No, this is how I felt at this point in the game. I was just like, get it over with. Because we're doing the same exact things, all the bosses are basically the same thing, and we're not progressing anything, really. Like, I get it. We're going in, we're getting the temple keys, so then that way we can go... Not the temple, the teleporter keys, then we can go to the endgame, pretty much. I get it. But I'm just drained from all of the backtracking that they're making me do, especially going to one area to get one upgrade, then to come all the way back, and... I know I didn't really mention this before, but this is so much worse than Prime 1, or what people say about Prime 1 ever was. Because at least Prime 1, it probably took you, at most, half an hour to do the backtracking. Here it could take you upwards of an hour to do the fucking backtracking side quests that they're making you do in this game. And it is so aggravating and so slow that I just wanted to stop playing the game at this point. And I'm mentioning all this during the boss fight, because what do I have to say to the boss fight? They all do the same fucking things. Like, except for the final boss, which the final boss is cool. We'll talk about him in like 2 hours. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna have 2 more hours of this video. Please, no. But I know I sound extremely negative and I sound extremely out of it at this point, but I'm trying to reflect upon what I actually felt like at this point in the game. I wanted it to be over, and for a Metroid game, or fuck, just a new game in general at this point, like, that is not a good thing. Like, you don't want it to be over. If you want something to be have a lasting impression on you, you want to continue with it, right? You don't want to just sit there and be like, oh fuck, thank God it's over now. Thank God that part's over. No, you want to enjoy most of it. Hell, the parts I don't enjoy about Prime 2 and Prime 3, at least the parts that I enjoyed held weight and I remember all of them. I'm not going to remember most of what happens in this game because it's all the same and it's so generic that you have to really, like, either play this game multiple times in order to remember every single thing that happens in it, or you have to... Fuck, I don't even know, man. I'm just rambling at this point. Can you tell that this video isn't scripted? Can you tell yet? But anyway, finally, we kill the fucking Omega Griever. And we get power bombs. That's the last upgrade in the game. Cool. Now we can actually find everything and destroy things and get all the upgrades now. Awesome. We have everything that we need to do. We also get the last Master Teleporter key, and then there's a couple things that we need to do in order to get to endgame, folks. What we need to do is we need to fill up our green crystal gauge. So, let's go drive around and run into some green crystals for 30 minutes. Did I mention how much I hate this? Because I hate this shit. This is absolutely abysmal. And to add insult to injury, one of the cutscenes that adds immense, and I mean immense context to a lot of things in this story, you have to get 100% of the crystals. You don't need 100% of the crystals to beat the game. No. You have to drive over every single crystal to get this secret cutscene that explains some other shit in the lore. Fuck off, game. I am not doing that. You're already having me drive around for nearly 3 fucking hours doing the crystals anyway. Why couldn't I just get it for 100% like I get the secret ending for? Come on. I have to go around and drive for another hour and a half to get the remaining crystals after I already get all the upgrades for them? Fuck off. No, I'm not doing that. Second thing we need to do is drive around the map and find Takabi, where he's going to be at a bonfire that he created, and he's going to give us this thing called a teleporter chip. This item allows us to collect all the mech parts in the game for that Galactic Federation mech that we found back in Fury Green. So, that's the next step that we have to do, and a couple of them are a little more involved, but a lot of them basically just, I don't know, you just drive up to it and you press a button and then it teleports it to fucking Mackenzie. That's about it. Some of them you do actually need to go back into previous areas for, so guess what? That means even more backtracking than we had to do before, and at this point there's no guidance on it really. You just have to kind of go and take a look. It does show on the map where there will be mech parts though, so that is something that is good. So you're not like completely aimless the entire time, but like I said, some are more involved than others, but for the most part you just drive up to it and press the fucking A button to do something. So whatever. Once you get all the mech parts, that allows us to get to endgame. But let me talk about something that slightly annoys me story-wise. You see, there are many moments where the side characters will be talking to Samus and creating a plan or asking some sort of questions, right? But Samus just answers with nods and such. Now, I mean, yes, this is part of the course for her character in the past. She's similar to Link, where she's a silent character, a silent protagonist and all that. But, guys, come on! Other M was 15 years ago at this point. We can have Samus talk, and we don't need her to speak just in Chozo either. We can have her speak in a normal dialect. Just because Other M was so bad with her writing doesn't mean that we don't have to have Samus talk. Just write her well. That's it. There are plenty of parts like that, and trust me, they got on my nerves quite a bit, because I'm like, just fucking say something. I understand it. The other thing is, Samus kind of does things that are kind of out of character in this game, slightly. She kind of just does things for herself, really. It's kind of just incidental that she's also doing things for the Federation members that are here too, because, well, they want the same goal that you do, really, but beforehand, you were just accomplishing it for yourself. You're trying to activate the Master Teleporter to get out of here and preserve the memories of the Lemorn people. Okay, cool. I just want to know how the other characters kind of feel about this, like, because Samus normally doesn't just do things for herself. While yes, in other games it does look like that she's doing it to progress herself and progress the story as a whole, she's doing it for the good of others, pretty much, in other games. Here, she's doing it for the good of herself for the most part, and then it feels like the other people are just incidental, really. And we'll get into why I say this later. But now let's get to the end game. Obtaining all of the required green crystals that we need to get, we obtain the memory fruit from the Lemorn people, which allows us to get the legacy suit. Using the legacy suit allows us to basically give us an overshield if we activate it, which frankly I only used once. I mean, it sounds like a good concept on paper, but like honestly I didn't really use it. The suit looks cool though. It's basically just a white and black version of the Viola suit, but I do think it looks cool. It has a lot of light suit vibes pretty much here. So, with this suit in hand and all the mech parts, we can finally go to the Chrono Tower and activate the Master Teleporter. What follows is a big walkthrough of this area where you hear everyone's reactions to the Lemorn temple pretty much, and we see these psychic heliopods. One of them's active. Oh shit. Who could this be? But we're here, and we're here to activate Master Teleporter. So let's do it.
got the keys. Take us home.
Ah, shit.
I can't believe it. We're actually going home.
Oh, shit. We do see flashes of vision that Samus sees throughout the game, and we see that Silex used to work for the Federation. That's partially why he hates the Federation and Samus, because Samus failed to save all of them. At least, that's what I got from that. Finally, we see fucking Silex here after I don't know how long. What has he been doing? Where are the space pirates here? Who knows? We just know that he is the final boss now, and he's infused with the green energy now that infected the Lamorne, so now we're gonna have to take him down. Remember when I said that boss fights, or a certain boss fight, would have you with the Amigo characters and you had to manage them? Yeah, this is that one. And guess what? If any of your teammates die during this fight, it is a game over, restart the fucking boss fight. What the fuck? That absolutely ruined this boss fight for me, by the way. There were multiple times where he does an attack that does big damage to somebody while I'm healing them to get them back up. Then guess what? It kills them. So, you have to get a game over. That happens so many times. So, yeah, that ruined this fight so much, and I just can't... I can't fathom it, you know what I mean? But what can I say about this fight? Well, it's not exactly the same as all the other fights. He actually has different attacks. He switches to the different chipsets, so he has different tentacles. You destroy the tentacles, and then once all the tentacles are destroyed, you can damage him. This is that attack I was talking about, by the way, that big lightning attack. Does huge damage to anybody in the radius, and unfortunately, since you can't command your teammates, you get situations like this where you have multiple people down, and you need to heal them, and if you don't heal them in time, they die, and then it's a game over. Very, very, very annoying, but I know it can be done because, obviously, I did it. But it just gets annoying, and it's not something that I want to have to deal with during a boss fight. I don't want to have to deal with my squad members' damage and all such, especially when I can't even command them, you know? Like, it's just really annoying. But Silex does have a second form, and this time, it's without our buddies. Phase 2 happens when Silex is about half health, or just a little bit before, where we're flying through space and we need to shoot him while we're flying through space, and then finally we enter the final arena. Where are we? What significance does this place have? I have absolutely no idea, and I don't really care at this point. We're at the final boss, so let's scan him, get our final scan, and then we can have this badass boss fight. This phase of the boss fight is much like the robot fights that we had against Silex earlier in the game, but it is so much more fun because he has plenty of attacks that we can't... It's a long fight, don't get me wrong, it's a very long fight, but there are multiple different tactics that you can use during this fight, and it makes it more engaging than any of the other fights that we had with him before. It is really, really fun. But enough of me talking about the boss fight, let's actually get in there and finish this game. As we're activating the Master Teleporter, Silex comes back, threatening to destroy it. And in order to hold them back, our friends sacrifice themselves so that Samus can then keep the Lamorne legacy alive and escape with it. And once the teleporter's active, you get a white screen. And then the fucking credits start to play. Wait, what? That was the ending. That... Our companions just die. We activate the teleporter. We don't see Samus get off planet or anything. And the game just ends. What? I'm sorry. That's just... No. No. There is secret endings to the game if you 100% it, or you use either of the amiibos that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. However, if you 100% the game, you get them at the same time, so why the fuck would you pay $30 for the amiibos? Now, one of the secret endings is just the extended flashback that we see that was Silex's origin. That's the main one. That's a little side one. The main one is Samus implanting the tree of the Lemorn on a distant planet. That ends Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Well, what else can I say? This game was one of my most anticipated games, especially of the last decade, and I know I said that it met expectations in some parts, but in others it did not. And I'm pretty sure you guys heard that. You guys could probably tell how annoyed I got with this game towards the end part of the game. Fuck, I didn't even talk about the Great Minds that much, because what the fuck else is there to talk about, really? The music is great, although some parts it is a little bit of a letdown than Prime 1, 2, and 3. The gameplay is still there. If you can find a way to make the mouse controls work for you, use those. They're really, really good. In the sense of, in terms of, concept, not in practicality. In practice, they're fucking terrible, but, yeah, like, I don't know what else to say about this game. The fact that we waited almost 2 decades for this game, and for it to come out like this, I don't know. A lot of people think that this is going to be a second Dark Age of the franchise, given how it's not selling great, and the reviews are similar to other M's, and it's polarizing for that matter as well. Let me say this again for some of you out there. This game is nowhere near as bad as other M. If you think this game is as bad as Other M, you need to go replay Other M, because this game is nowhere near as bad. It does have annoying things, yes, but it is not Other M. I probably would say that this is the worst Metroid Prime game. Mainline Metroid Prime game. I'm not counting Prime Hunters or Federation Force. I'm not counting those. In terms of a mainline numbered game, this is definitely the weakest of all of them. That being said, it is still a good game. And will we get more Metroid Prime in the future? I can't say. But given how the track record of this series is, when something comes out that's disappointing the fans, it doesn't bode well, unfortunately. And honestly, for me, that's the most disappointing part of all of it, is that we may have to wait another 7 years for another great Metroid game. But anyway, guys, I rambled on enough about this game for long enough. Have a fantastic day, weekend, holiday, whatever you're fucking watching this on. I'll catch you later. And then I will suffer. But you're gonna suffer with me in the next video, that's for sure.